Good afternoon. Thanks very much for taking the time to come and hear our story. Just turn on the clock. For those of you who don't know Regeneus, we're an ASX-listed cell-based regenerative medicine company. We were founded in 2007, and since that time we've turned ourselves into a developer and commercialiser of innovative autologous and allogeneic cell therapies. We started off in the veterinary market, and we've kept our veterinary market roots, but we've also branched into the human space as well, so we cover both market segments. Our initial focus from our early days was musculoskeletal, and we've kept that, and we've now added oncology as one of our main therapeutic areas of interest. The business is underpinned by two key technology platforms. One is a stem cell technology platform, which is adipose by nature, so we work with fat-derived stem cells. And the second is a cancer vaccine technology, so cancer vaccines having a second run after the previous presentation. And we're supported by 10 patent families that underpin this business. Strategically, I'd like to make 2 points up front about our Snapshot, and that's that our autologous therapies have really allowed us to fast-track a lot of our outcomes in our business, both clinical and commercial pathways. And our allogeneic business plays more to the pharma model. I'm talking to a very knowledgeable audience here, so therefore you'll understand why some people like one model versus the other. What we've really done is we've built our models based on our interactions with clinicians, human clinicians, veterinary clinicians, in terms of what they want. So we built our business really from feedback from the market about the market opportunities and pricing and the products. The sort of discussion we had earlier from the payer community, if you were listening to it, is think about the end when you want to first start. Think about the affordability, think about how you're going to make it, think about what could be reimbursed and which model is going to work for what particular type of disease condition. So we've adapted ourselves to those sort of circumstances. For example, our vet health products lead everything we do in our human space. The technology is developed in vet. We find that a lot of our preclinical and our clinical work it really informs our human development strategy. So we're pretty knowledgeable by the time we hit our human development area. I think since we listed in 2013 on the Australian Stock Exchange, we've had a pretty good record of hitting our milestones, doing what we said we'd do, which is only part of the job, of course, for a listed company, but it certainly brings disciplines to bear in your company. In terms of our product pipeline, I'm not sure if you can see it clearly, but essentially it's broken into two key parts, and that's the human and the veterinary part. You'll also see on the bottom there are different coloured bars, and that really represents our different autologous MSC platform. You'll see in the grey bar, you'll see the allogeneic products, the MSC products in orange. We have a xenogenic product, which is in green. And also the yellow bar represents our autologous tumour cells. So really what we've got is 4 streams of what I describe as cell source that underpin the products. And as you can see, in the human space and in the vet space, we have an osteoarthritis product. In the human, there's an autologous product. We also are developing a off-the-shelf product in human we call Progenza. We have an osteoarthritis product in both canine and equine, which is an off-the-shelf product. We have a secretions cream, which is stem cell secretions harvested that make an anti-inflammatory cream. We have the 2 vaccine technologies, one in dog, canine, and the other in human in the yellow. So that's a snapshot of who we are today and where we're up to with each of our products. In light of the time I've got today, I'm going to focus on 3 areas only. I'm going to focus on HiQ-Cell, which is our autologous adipose-derived platform, focused on osteoarthritis. I'm going to talk about our new human vaccine technology and where it is in the vet world as well. And lastly, I'm going to talk about our off-the-shelf product for osteoarthritis in human and vet. Like a speaker from Seska Therapeutics, we also have an adipose-derived autologous treatment that is done in clinic for knee osteoarthritis and other musculoskeletal conditions such as tendinopathy. But the primary focus of this product at the moment with our clinicians is knee osteoarthritis. As many of you will know, the standard of care for osteoarthritis tends to range from losing weight, right through to joint replacement. And there's not much that happens in between other than pain relief. Most people are focused on pain. As you know, they go to the doctor because they're in pain, not because their cartilage is wearing out. So therefore, by the time they arrive, they need a solution. What we found in our early days in vet, and now we've transferred it to the human space, is that mesenchymal stem cells, autologous mesenchymal stem cells, have real genuine effect in pain management firstly and regeneration secondly. But most people are focused on the pain management primarily, and that's what they often see as success, not whether they grow beautiful hyaline cartilage within 3 to 12 months, particularly if they're someone who's over 55. It's a simple same-day procedure, and it's performed by licensed medical specialists, primarily sports med specialists and orthopaedic surgeons, done in clinic. We provide a service in the clinic. It's a 60-minute service where adipose tissue is harvested, we process, the cells are then returned to the clinician within 60 minutes, and it's ultrasound-guided injection into the joint, typically both knees, because osteoarthritis patients present usually with both knees in trouble, not just one. We also have developed with this product a cryo-storage option. A number of people who come to us are interested in whether they can store cells, so we've developed a technology where we store material for subsequent re-injection, so therefore you can develop your own biobank in effect with one autologous harvest. We have data to support where we are. We haven't just relied on what I describe as word of mouth and clinicians being able to do this in a regulatory environment. We did a randomised control trial in Australia which demonstrated safety beyond any doubt, and also provided some interesting efficacy data for us, particularly in the use of biomarkers. Biomarkers give a good sense of the placebo versus control, the biomarkers that will tell you about degradation of cartilage and other breakdown markers which show stabilisation in the treatment group versus the placebo group. So there's a significant difference on those biomarkers. We also have established the first joint registry in Australia, which has over 300 patients' data in that joint registry. And what we wanted to do was get some real-world, long-term data sets to support the clinicians who want to work with us. It's an expensive thing to do, but we think it's necessary to build up the sort of data long-term if our goal is to get reimbursement for this type of product. Just in terms of the regulatory piece, in Australia, an autologous cell therapy of this type is treated as an exempt biological. Australia has introduced new biological therapy laws in 2012. It's not dissimilar to some other markets, but seems to be more permissive than what I see in North America right now. So therefore, if you're a medico, you're treating a patient, you're doing an autologous transplant, and you're in control of the process and the technology, then that is exempt from, you are not making a medicine in Australia, what you're doing is doing a medical procedure. And that obviously creates an opportunity for medicos to take control of certain types of transplants. Many transplants live in this biological space in Australia, not just stem cell transplants. This particular procedure was launched in 2012, and since that time over 500 patients have been treated commercially, and that number is starting to grow as we increase the number of medical specialists who work with us. Primarily it was a Sydney-based activity that we had, and now we've branched into Melbourne, and soon we're branching into Singapore. What we're seeing is an increasing number of medicos looking for an alternative treatment for their patients other than telling them to wait for joint replacement or take painkillers. Because there are a number of things out there, but there's nothing really that's solving the problem for those medicos in terms of what they've got in their toolbox. In terms of what's driving the growth of this at the moment, what we're seeing really is that we've had to go out and work out what it means to be a marketer of these sorts of products, and we found that most people actually look to shop online, particularly those who are looking for something which is an expensive autologous cell therapy. Doctors can intermediate that sale, but most people who look at this, they're educated, they're very knowledgeable about the therapy, and they want answers, and so therefore you need to have, in the internet terms, a B2C model. You need to go out and be able to market effectively in a very sophisticated and knowledgeable way to the sort of people who are interested in this type of therapy. So by the time that they see a medico, a lot of the questions have been asked and answered, and that they are moving to whether this is the right therapy for me. And I think that one of the key drivers long term, of course, for any autologous procedure, will again go back to that discussion inside, which was about the payer community and how they approach this. As we heard earlier, it's all about data. you'll find that in the Australian setting, I can't comment on other settings, but the sort of people who are interested in the effectiveness of this therapy are often workers' compensation insurers who are looking at actually getting results rather than seeing themselves as just payers. They see themselves as actually trying to get an effect and getting an injured worker, for example, back into the workplace. And so some of those conversations are different than the typical insurance company conversation about reimbursements. And I think that'll be, it's something that we want to watch in this space, is how the reimbursers move to understand autologous cell therapy over time. When is enough data enough? And on what basis will they move forward with you? We've already found, for example, that doctors can make individual workers' comp claims in Australia to an insurer, and some of them will pay now. And they'll do it on a limited amount of data. They won't do it as a blanket approval. What they'll do it is on a case-by-case basis. But we see this as the beginning of a conversation which moves into ultimately a reimbursement strategy, which is about getting their feet wet with us as we go through this and build the data sets with them. I'll move quickly to the cancer vaccine. As you've seen, the cancer vaccine for our veterinary business is a fast-moving story. We translated preclinical work done at the Colling Institute of Medical Research in Australia into a vet study of dogs with a whole range of hard tumours. And we have effectively taken preclinical work and translated it into an early commercial opportunity in the veterinary market within 24 months. So we think we're on the sharp edge of translational medicine, and sometimes it's a bleeding edge. It's an autologous vaccine for all types of cancers, and the tumour binds with a novel bacterial protein to stimulate the immune response. And there's a detailed paper on this rather than me take up too much time talking about it, but we have it on our website, and if anyone wants it, I'm happy to share it with you. This business was soft launched in September 2014. As a business, what we do is we actually process the tumour that's sent in from the veterinarian, and we return it to that veterinarian within usually 48 hours. And then it's a 12-week treatment of 4 doses each. And the source of the material, of course, is tumour cells that have been bound with a bacterial protein called streptavidin. And that seems to draw a different immune response than a number of other autologous immune therapies out there. We have a US marketing trial that has commenced. Treatments have already started. We're doing it with VCA. Some of you may know VCA. Interestingly, the USDA passed this through for commercial therapy because they said there was no sensible trial we could do with dying dogs with cancer. So they took a risk. Unlike the FDA, they just said, why don't you go out there and do it? Tell us what happens, tell us how the market reacts, and give us the data, because we're very interested. So they took this is the Centre for Veterinary Biologics, which is part of the USDA, which normally sees normal vaccines for chickens and sheep and things like that. It's a single-dose vaccine, of course, highly personalised. And they took that approach, which was very novel. And so we've got some interest from partners, and we'll see how that progresses over the next 12 months. Very quickly, the other interesting thing, of course, is that the human opportunity is a real one for us. We see that as moving quite quickly. We're hoping to go into first-in-man, first quarter next year, or at least first half, at the Royal North Shore Hospital, which is a major hospital in Australia, in Sydney. We noticed that a couple of deals are done in the marketplace at the moment. Boehringer, Roche have all done deals in the immunotherapy space recently. We think that there's increasing interest in autologous immunotherapy for cancer, and we'll be exploring that as one of our main themes over the next period. The other thing I'd just like to talk about, I'm negative on time, but no one's kicked me off yet. They haven't booed me off. I'd just like to talk about our off-the-shelf therapy products for OA. We have 2 types. We have one in the veterinary space, which actually was the leader for our off-the-shelf product in the human space for OA. This product was essentially developed because veterinarians said, we understand autologous therapy, but I'm a busy vet, I don't have time, I can't sell this effectively, so what I need is something that comes off the shelf. So this off-the-shelf strategy was very much about a response to veterinaries' requests. They gave us a price point and they said, can you deliver this product into our hands at this price? And we've done that, and over 2,000 animals have been treated in Australia in field trials effectively. And what we found is we're moving to a pivotal study in the US. We have an IND open with the FDA for a pivotal study in the last quarter of 2015 to get registration of the product here in the US, which we'll use as the leverage point to bring essentially one of the first off-the-shelf cell therapies for the veterinary market out into the marketplace. In terms of the human product, it's following up behind. Our first-in-man trial will start in the first half next year. All the preclinical work has been done, and so we'll be trailing in behind that. And our strategy really is to focus on the Japanese market, which many of you will know has really set themselves up as the permissive and progressive market globally, I think, for some of the newest cell therapies out there, and we're working to move into that space. Our milestones to watch very quickly is we will continue to grow our high-Q-cell business in Singapore, Australia and other parts of the world over the next 12 to 24 months. The cancer vaccine has a strong set of milestones that we'll knock over in the next 12 months because of our focus on doing that, and that is largely about commercialisation and getting some human data. And last but not least, we'll be partnering on our Cryoshot, our off-the-shelf stem cell products, and we'll get a vet readout for our in advance of our clinical trial, which we hope will be successful late next year. So thank you very much, and I'm sorry I went a bit over time.